Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Torchtales. I'm your host, Frank. No, actually, I'm not. Not today. Today, we're going to reverse the roles. Who better to ask me questions about my journey in the industry after I've done a few interviews and I had a good friend, of course, Melissa de Jesus. Again, one more crack at it, but again, reverse. She asked me, hey, Frank, I would love to hear about your story. And here we are. And where are we again?
We are in somewhere Connecticut for the Gata Northeast Regional. I'm not sure the name of the town.
It's Foxwoods, the casino and resort.
Yes.
Don't ask me the town either because I have no clue.
It starts with an M and it's got a lot of letters.
Oh, well, there you go. She knows more than me because I had no clue it starts with an M. So, Melissa, thank you again for reversing these roles. Yes. And you wanted to know a little bit about my beginnings.
Yes.
Which probably, if I've always said in some of the other episodes where 2, 3, 5 people might hear this, probably just one will hear this thing. But it's all good. So what do you got for me?
Well, thank you for allowing me to do this reverse interview. The Torchtales is such a fun little journey that allows people the insight to folks that they maybe aren't comfortable walking up to and saying, hey, tell me a little bit about your journey. Or, some of these networking events tend to be a little bit overwhelming for certain people. And so having the opportunity to get to know people on a personal level that you wouldn't feel comfortable with otherwise is pretty fantastic. So I love the podcast. I think it's been great thus far. The episodes that have been posted have been fantastic. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it again, a second time around.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Yeah. So I know you on a pretty personal level in different ways, but tell me, who are you with now? Who are you working with now, and how long have you been with them?
So I'm with a U.S. manufacturing company. It's called Uniwell Products. We are a gas apparatus, so that's kind of like the older kind of welding processes out there. Oxy-fuel. It's a 150-year-old industry, but I'm very grateful that I've been with this company for now 12 years or so. They've allowed me to reach and see and meet places that I've never dreamed of. Sure. So that's where I work for now.
Okay. And where were you before that? You said how many years?
About 12 or so.
12? Okay.
Yeah.
So before those 12 years, what were you doing before that?
So I was kind of selling the product even before I knew about the company. So I worked for Grainger, which is an industrial supply house, right? I think everyone has heard this name before. So I worked for Grainger about 4 or 5 years, and I was selling the Uniwell product line, not even knowing much about it.
Okay.
And it's a funny story because I was working in this place called Doral, Florida, which is about 45 minutes from where Uniwell is.
Okay.
And they tried to hire me twice. And the first time around, I said no because it was just me being cocky. And the second time around, I was coaching baseball, which it was my passion. And it was very close to where my kids were playing baseball. I'm like, maybe there's a sign here. So I took on the position, and it got me closer to coaching my kids. And 12 years later, here I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you make the switch then? What was the deciding factor between staying with Grainger and making the change over to Uniweld?
It was a few things. One was the distance. I was driving 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, depending whether it was morning or afternoon.
Okay.
That was one thing. Second, like I mentioned before, being closer to my kids and being able to coach.
Okay.
And then I think it was, even though Grainger was great, I think it was one of the best places I've ever been to when it comes to learning. Grainger spends a lot of time and money making sure that the people that work for them understand, and that's where I learned lean manufacturing, 5S, and so many other processes that I still apply till this day. So I'm very grateful for that experience, but it was a combination of just wanting to be closer to my kids in the beginning.
Okay. So you mentioned that you're in Florida. So how long have you been in Florida?
Well, that's so let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
In April of '92, my mom had already been in the U.S. for a few years.
U.S. from where?
From Dominican Republic. So I was born and somewhat raised. I mean, raised to 5'4", right, height-wise, right? Yeah. Hey, it's all good.
I just want to point out while we're on this that I'm taller than him right now. So I just wanted to
just because she got the higher chair. That's the only reason. I still got about 4 inches on her, so I'll take that any day over anyone. But anyway, so here's 1992, and my mom had already been in the U.S. for a while.
Okay.
And here comes, she was doing the whole paperwork and all thing. Here I am, 13, 14, and I did not want to come to this country. And of course, you're in high school, your friends, your family, new beginnings, new everything. So it's like, no.
New country, the whole
Correct,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
Language, because I didn't speak English back then either.
So you
fine.
speak English now?
No, I'm still struggling through that. I don't know what I speak. I have no idea what this is. So yeah, I'm not even bilingual, because when I'm in Latin countries, like, you're not from here. When I'm here, like, you're not from here. I'm like, where am I from? I have no clue. So 1992, I come in April of 92. And I think in November or so, because I was just throwing tantrums because I didn't want to be here. And my mom goes, all right, sure. You don't want to be here? I'm just going to send you back, which she did. She bought me a one-way ticket. And I said, I love you, son, but you're just a nightmare right now. So she sent me back. I'm within...
How old were you at this time?
14 maybe.
Okay.
13, 14. So I thought I wanted to go back. And I was there for like 2 weeks. And then I started crying, like, Mom, I miss you. I just want to be with you. And the whole thing. And so it only took about 3 days after I started crying and missing Mom and all that. And she was like, all right, so are we done with this conversation?
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to come over and stay and we're good and you're going to go to school and all that. And so since 92, I moved into South Beach. And that was, talk about culture shock. So I'm in Dominican Republic. Then I moved into South Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And that was the one place that I didn't want to be at till I started just riding my bike around town. And South Beach back in the early 90s there was a lot of freedom. Let's just say when you are a 14-year-old boy and you are in South Beach and you see all these beautiful people with very little clothes, I'm like, all right, I kind of dig this. I like this. I'll stay. So that's how I stayed in Florida, and then I went through high school, college, and all that in South Florida.
Okay, so you said before you moved here you didn't speak any English.
Correct.
So what was that transition like for you then? Did you just get thrown into public schools and just sink or swim, or what did that look like?
Pretty much. I think what you know about me, I think you can tell that I'm not shy.
What?
Yeah, right? So I was not shy then. So I was always asking questions, asking the teachers. I was put through the whole ESOL class thing. Okay. And I was one of those like, hey, how do you say that? How do you pronounce that? How do you write that? So I really put an effort to learn the new country's language, which here's, I'm like, hey, if I'm here, I'm going to do the right thing.
Sure.
But through the process, I went through quite a few embarrassing moments of not speaking the language. There was this park in South Beach called Flamingo Park, and I used to play basketball a lot. And I was playing basketball, and I was decent for my height, which I was even shorter back then.
Glad you brought that up. I was going to say something, but
yeah, right. I'm as full as it gets right now. Back then, I was 3'2". I don't know, and. So I am playing basketball, and this guy starts asking me, he's like, hey, of course, now I know what he said. And a few months after, because I had to ask the teacher, hey, I had this guy telling me this. What the hell is he saying? So he was asking me, he's like, hey, you're pretty good. You're decent. Where are you from? So my answer was, multiple times, yeah. Like, no, like, where are you from? Like, yeah. How old are you? Yeah. So I guess he realized, like, I'm not going to get anywhere with this guy. And I realized that I had no clue what the guy was saying. So to make a long story short, I stopped going to that basketball court for like 3 months because I was so embarrassed. And I'm like, I'm never going to go back to that place. But that made me even work harder at learning the language because I hate being embarrassed.
So when you went back to your teacher, did you just remember what he was asking you, and you went back to the teacher and said he said something like this, and then she translated it?
So I couldn't say it as how the guy said it. So he's I was making the sounds of like, it sounded something like this.
Sure. Okay.
And the teacher's like, well, based on the scenario, based on where you were, and based on what I think you're trying to say, I think he said this.
Yeah.
I'm like, Oh, that makes sense.
So I just kept saying, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Where are you from?
I always heard that by saying yes, you can get along in any conversation. Well, not in this one, but yeah, that's just one of the most embarrassing moments I've ever had, and there's quite a few more, but that's a long story. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. I'd like to be a fly on that wall during that conversation. That'd be amazing.
Even the fly would have understood more than what I was saying or what he was saying. It is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so you came in here and you were a teenager. Your family was here. So you have siblings and your mom is here and everybody's here then in Florida with you, kind of going through the same thing.
Yeah, so my mom came in 87 or something, and that I came in 92, and I do have a younger brother. He's 10 years younger.
Okay.
And I had a sister that was 20 years younger. So my mom had it like every 10 years because the next son was going to take care of the one before. I think
babysitters.
I think that was her plan from the get-go. I think like, all right, so at 10 he can take care of the next, and so on, so on. My brother's still around. Unfortunately, I lost my sister this past October, and it was a devastating time for our family. She was 22. And we're still struggling. It's going to be a year coming up soon. And of course, as you most can imagine, what that's like. And if you can imagine, I hope you don't have to. But yeah.
So is your family unit, you and your brother and your sister and your mom?
Yeah, they live in Orlando.
Close. Okay.
I live in Fort Lauderdale. And because of my lifestyle, the traveling and everything else I do, just distance, sometimes can get in the way of the relationship itself.
Sure.
I'm close enough where we talk weekly and we have that relationship. But again, I don't see them as often as I would want to.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you came into the industry, was it straight to Grainger, or what were you doing before? Were you in another industry before Grainger, before you got into the welding and gas world?
Yeah, so I was with in the auto glass industry, windshields, doors, and stuff like that for 10 years. And I was the GM and regional manager for also family-owned business.
Okay.
And it also got me into traveling. That's kind of like where I started traveling. So I was always doing Atlanta, California. And so I've been traveling since my early 20s when it comes to my professional life.
Okay.
Before that, I worked for Pizza Hut. And I worked for Pizza Hut, Papa John's, and Little Caesars. Hey, so I do know how to...
So he likes pizza.
Well, actually, I went for like 4 years without eating out.
Really?
I would just pizza it out. It was just too much. But yeah, so that was my first job when I was 16, 17. Then from there I went to the glass business.
Okay.
And I was there for 10. And then from there I went to the industrial side, Grainger, and all of that. And but I was traveling a lot through those cities that I just mentioned. And that kind of got the bug of traveling in my veins, because I love traveling and meeting people and trying different things. But then I had my kids young and I stopped traveling and I put that on hold for a while till I kind of felt okay that it was good to go again.
Sure. So how did you get from that industry over to this industrial gas and welding industry? Like, that's an interesting transition from auto glass to the industrial welding, gas and distributing. Like, how did that happen? Was it connection? Was it just a random person reached out to you, or?
It's social media again, LinkedIn.
Okay.
I used to have my resume out there live because I always wanted to keep my skills fresh.
Sure.
So I would go on interviews just to make sure that I'm able to hold those and hold my own.
Okay.
That didn't mean that I was actually looking, which is why I said no the first time to UniWeld. I'm like, I'm good. And then the second time around, everything just worked out where I wanted to be closer. So when they first interviewed me 12 years ago, I was selling the product and selling many other industrial items.
With Grainger?
With Grainger, because Grainger is like anything you can think of, you'll sell through Grainger. So when I first got with UniWeld, I wasn't sure. Like the first 3 months or 5, 6 months, I wasn't sure that I was gonna stay there long. for many reasons.
Okay.
And then I found my niche. I found that I was decent at it.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with the industry once I started traveling and meeting people.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. I love this industry, and we've talked about this. I don't see myself doing anything else now because I just have these amazing relationships and friends
Yeah.
like you. So I'm in it to win it.
Yeah. So did Granger find you on LinkedIn too, and then Uniweld also, or how did you?
No, Uni will find me through LinkedIn. Granger, I applied
Okay.
and I got the job within a couple of weeks.
And you were just ready to be done with the auto glass?
Yeah.
You were just looking for something new and a different type of
Correct, because I
experience?
had reached the top, family owned. There's only so much you can grow.
Sure.
At Granger, the sky was the limit at that time.
Yeah.
And I worked at one of the biggest branches, export, domestic, everything all in one in Doral, Florida. So Granger is huge. So that got me like, all right. So I moved through the ranks very quickly, and I became the manager and all kinds of things, with the company. But then just the commute was just too much.
Sure.
Yep,
Yeah, when you have little kids, it's a lot.
exactly.
Be a lot. You want to be home as much as possible.
For sure. And I loved coaching baseball, and that
Okay.
was my passion. And
Sure.
and I did that for about 15 years while I was working for Uniwell. They were very gracious to allow me to do my thing. So I would come in at 5 o'clock in the morning, make sure that everything was taken care of, go to the field at 2, 3 p.m.
Sure.
In fact, there was many days where I was coaching third base,
Okay.
and I would get a call from the owner. It's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm giving signals right now to my runner so he can steal second base. And I was like, all right, call me later. So that I love that freedom that I got that allowed me
nice.
to do what I loved at that moment.
So did it feel like you were going a little bit back more to home, right? Because you were at a auto glass business that was family owned, and then you went to Granger, which is obviously not
huge
family owned,
corporation, right?
family owned, and then you go to Uniweld, which also is family owned,
Yes.
right? So did it feel like, I feel a little bit more like home? I know you said you weren't quite sure about it, but did it feel initially, or maybe after some time, that you felt more at home and back to a family owned environment?
Good question. Yes, the short answer is yes. The long answer is, just like anything, when it's family owned and you report, because from the get-go I report to the owners right away.
Sure.
So I felt that, all right, that's interesting. After 4 or 5 years in Granger, going right back to that. But the one thing is that they allowed me to bring my experience, and they knew that I was bringing some value into the company.
Sure.
So I think, so far, I think they like what I do, and they've seen that I do what I say I'm going to do.
Sure.
And so far it has worked out where they have allowed me to be myself and be out here representing them to the point where they don't micromanage me, and I can be me.
Okay.
So I think that I give them a lot of kudos for that. So
Sure. And do you do, is it all domestic travel, or are you doing international and domestic for Uniweld?
So on paper, I handle everything east of the Mississippi and all of Canada,
Okay.
which is 27 states and a whole country, right? So that's
Sure.
quite a nice big chunk of territory. With that being said, I do help the export department here and there. So I go to Mexico and help them out
Okay.
with FabTech. I also, like I mentioned before, I go to Canada and do FabTech. And of course, that's kind of like my territory.
Okay.
So that's what I've done so far with the company. Because I'm bilingual, as you can tell from probably my accent, right? Spanish speaking, that is. So I've done abroad as well with the company.
Okay. And I know you personally, so I know that you're from the DR. Is I even say that? Sorry, I'm not from Dominican Republic, so I don't know how you say it properly. But so you're from there, but so do you go back there frequently?
Yeah, so I left when I was 13, 14.
Sure.
And if you would have asked me 5, 6 years ago, would I had ever thought about going back at any level? Yeah, just for vacation. Get on a cruise, go to the all-inclusive resort, drink, eat, let's party, it's on. Now I've been going for the last 4 or 5 years consistently First, it was because we had a family member that passed away, so that kind of got me back into the country.
Okay.
And then I saw some things that, of course, as a kid, you're just able to experience certain things, right? As an adult, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And so I started going even more and more and more. I met my wife there. I got married there.
Okay.
So now I think I mentioned in one of the conversations that I had with Brad Davis that I have two grown men, a 27 and a 24-year-old boys, men, young men, right? And now with my current wife, now I'm the new dad of two little girls. And I'm loving every minute of it.
Sure.
It's a big change, not only on age, because not only did I go from grown people to now 4 and 8, but also
the gender difference.
girls,
Yeah.
right? Which is, we'll see. Ask me again 5 years from now what I think. It might be a completely different answer.
We're gonna come back in 5 years and do a recap interview.
And I'll be like,
Keep your
worst thing ever or best thing ever.
It'll be the best. It'll be the second. The girls are the best thing on the planet Earth. So
really?
Absolutely. I have two of the most amazing girls, and
well,
best
she's
thing that's ever
biased,
happened.
so yeah, right?
They're amazing.
Yeah,
So what can
they
I say?
are. I'm married to one. I get it. Yeah. So I'm loving my life where I'm at right now. I love
Good.
my new relationship, and now that I'm a dad again of young people, not even girls or just young kids.
They're so youthful, and it allows you the opportunity to see life through an entire new lens, which I think I had my kids young as well, and I think that I missed a bit of that because I was so young trying to just stay alive and keep humans alive that, when you have little ones around you, you get to experience this world from a whole nother lens that is so just pure and refreshing. And you're just, I don't know, I think it just allows you to slow down and look at things from just a pure stance and a pure view that children give that for us. So that's fantastic.
I totally agree. And the thing with kids is that, in the beginning, they're just trying to do everything they can to kill themselves.
Sure.
That's pretty much, there's no other way of putting it. Any kid is like, I'm going to try that to see if I can kill myself. That's at the end of the day, you're like, that didn't work. I'm glad you're still alive. Having two boys, I'm like, wow, he made it through that. Awesome, great. I get to keep him for another birthday. So
I think that's the difference between boys and girls, because I didn't have that same experience with little girls. I didn't feel like they were trying to kill themselves. I think that they were everything was just so fun and great and beautiful, and everything was so amazing and so cool. Really? And you're like, it's just a drinking fountain. Like that's all it is. So yeah, I think it's so sweet and pure from a child's perspective.
Hey, again, I'm going through that now, so we'll see. I remember sitting down on my backyard every once in a while, and I would see my boys just either jumping through a fence or, playing with this metal spear, and I'll be like, I wonder how that's going to go. And most of the time, it never went well. And I would be like, call their mom back then, like, I think your son is about to get hurt. And most of the time it happened. It is what it is.
Yeah. Report back in a couple years. Let me know if that's changed, because I did not have the same experience.
Yeah.
My kids aren't girly and, prim and proper or anything. So I don't know. Weird, interesting experience.
Totally different. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the industry. So you've been with Uniwell for 12, you're with Granger for...
I was there for like 4, 5,
4 or 5. So what keeps you in this industry specifically? You said you're a lifer now. You're in it and you're not leaving, and this is where you belong.
You guys are not going to get rid of me.
No.
Yeah.
So what keeps you? What few things, I guess, that come to mind when you think about what keeps you in this industry?
This might sound cliche, and we've had this conversation. People buy from people. So it's not even about what I'm selling.
Sure.
Just happens to know that now I'm in the gas apparatus business, right? But I've been with another industry for 10 years, another one for 4. And I don't think even out of those industries before, the quality of the people that I've met so far and the friendships that I've developed throughout these 12 years, by far are some of the best that I've ever had throughout any other careers and any other industries that I've been exposed to.
Okay.
And some of us say the same thing, and again, it just goes right back. And I hate like, he sounds just like, it's just that's just the political answer.
Sure.
But it's so true. You and I mean, every time we see each other, we just laugh, and we just can't help it, and we are very sarcastic. We're very
Sure.
close to the same humor chops. It is. I mean, it's sometimes rated R, sometimes PG-13. And that's
rarely G or PG.
Yeah, for the most part, that's what keeps me around. That's what makes me happy, along with the traveling and seeing these amazing places, which we get to see. I think we got to be grateful. But even if you took out the places and you just leave the people, I'll still be in it. So that's what keeps me in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So challenges. What challenges have you faced, if any, I guess, being maybe from the Dominican originally and English not being your first language? Like coming into this industry, maybe you were here long enough that English wasn't quite an issue by the time you got here. But what are some of the challenges that you dealt with in this industry, either with Granger or with Uniweld or both?
I think that's a hard question to answer, just because it's not per se about the language barrier, if I had one when I came into the industry or the professional industry.
Okay.
It's more about the relationships that other people have with other people that are in the business way longer than you.
Okay.
And those are hard to break. And I vouch for those as well. Like, I respect those.
Sure.
I'm 45 and I'm only 12 years in the industry. But you have these other generations that have been in the industry for 30, 40, and even if they're only been at it for 15, 20, they might have that relationship already way before me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that I run into, and I respect that. So I try not to come in as like, oh, you should do this with me because I'm this. Like, no, if you have something that works already, if you trust the person, if you have that relationship that you just feel comfortable with, I will never come in between that.
Sure.
Now, if there's an opportunity where I can come in and just add something to it and help you, by all means. But so coming from the Dominican Republic and not speaking the language when I was young, and now I think one of the things that helps me, it's humor.
Okay.
I think it's my personality. I'm not trying to look for that laugh. I think I'm quick and sarcastic, and I know what my fortes are, and that's one of them.
Okay.
Because that's where I grew up. I mean, that's you gotta take it, you gotta dish it, and back and forth. And so I love making sure people have a good time around me.
Okay.
Because life is just too short. I mean, don't buy from me. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you buy, even better.
Sure.
But I think, hey, let's have a good time. That's at the end of the day, that's what I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have those conversations and you're just then making it more of a personal relationship? Like, hey, you start talking to somebody, right? Say you're talking to somebody named Chris and they're saying, oh yeah, I actually buy from Tom over here and we've had a relationship for 5,000 years, and so great to meet you. And then what do? Are you just building that relationship just personally, like getting to know that person, and then what? Like, what is your approach then in that situation?
And then I just sail away and never come back, and right?
Yeah. And then you use your other assets.
Yeah. Well, hey, look at this. We talked about, come on. It's hard to say no. Yes and no. I'm like, hey, I know that other person too. Great. He provides a good product, there's the relationship.
Sure.
I'm like, here's my information. I'll touch bases with you again at some point. If there's ever an opportunity where maybe I'll just get 5%, 10% of anything that I might help you with.
Maybe a secondary
Correct. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't do any good for me to get the big PO if the stuff is just going to stay there collecting dust and not moving. So that means that it's not working for you. So that's not what I want to be known for.
But then becomes an inventory problem and you're
and then I have to worry with the second problem, right? So I'm like, no, look, you're good with that 80%. Let me just help you with that 20.
Sure. Okay.
And we can talk about quality, pricing, relationship, getting back, follow through, follow up, and all that. And
Sure.
we all try to do that in this industry. And at some point, even when we try all that, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with, I tried. It is what it is. You know where I'm at,
Yep.
and I'll see you on the next show, next visit, next whatever. And we get results every once in a while that you thought that it was never going to come your way. And a week, a month, 6 months, a year later, you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Right.
And you're like, I guess it works.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So did you ever envision yourself as, like, did you think when you were younger or a teenager, I'm going to be in sales, I want to do sales? Was that ever on your radar, or did that just kind of happen because you're a relationship kind of person? Because in my opinion, you find somebody that is really good at sales, it tends to be because they're really good at relationships. They're really good at asking the right questions, listening to you, following up.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Right. He's great at sales. So, I think in my opinion, in my experience, I never thought I would be in sales. And when somebody told me I was in sales, I cringed, and I thought of like
Right.
a smarmy car sales guy.
I gotta talk to people.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, like I didn't like the negative connotation that came with it. But as it was explained to me, it was more like, you're great at relationships. You're great at fostering that relationship, regardless if they're buying from you or if they want to buy more or less or whatever it might be. But the relationship building and hearing what they need and then taking care of what they need. So did you initially think, oh, I'm going to be in sales, or was that just kind of like a natural thing that went with who you are and your personality?
No, I think it was pretty close to what you were saying. I had many mentors throughout my career. And usually you have someone that sees something in you that you don't see in yourself, right? I'm like, hey, you might be great at this, or you might be good at this. And so what I started doing was I started preparing myself, doing things like personal growth classes and all kinds of what's the word? Digital webinars and seminars and stuff like that. And I went through Toastmasters. And learning all Toastmasters, a public speaking and leadership program, not knowing that this is where I was going to end up. I was just kind of getting tools under my belt.
Sure.
To whatever
Grow
came
yourself.
next.
Sure.
Yeah, so that way I felt ready for whatever that was. It just happens that sales came in, but I was always in customer service. I was always, this sounds weird, selling myself, but again, when you got all this going on, like I mentioned, you got to work with what you got.
Because he's so short.
It's the chair.
Yeah.
It's the chair. Right? Trust me.
Sure.
I still got 4 inches on her.
He's talking about height.
Yeah.
So.
This is what I love about this show. It's raw. It is what it is, but we're still trying to keep it PG-18. Yeah. So I was always just working on personal growth and for whatever opportunities that came up. And some mentors came in and said, Frank, work on this, read this book, do that, because I think this is just going to take you over the edge. And it did, and it has worked for me so far.
Okay.
Yep.
So are you still in touch with these mentors, and were they at the same company? Were they in adjacent companies? Were they family, friends? Like, where did your mentors come from, and are you still in touch with those mentors?
Some of them. I was in another industry that I was in only for about a year.
Okay.
So Grandeur was one of them. The regional manager was great at making sure that we read books, that we always had these book clubs, and we would have to talk about them and make sure that every weekly we met and say, all right, so what was your take on that one
With
book?
the sales team then?
It was a combination of the sales teams, the management, and pretty much anyone that was in a leadership role.
Okay.
So that was a big help. But then another industry that I was part of, which is what got me into reading at first leadership books and all that personal growth, I was in the pawn shop business.
Did you say pawn shop?
Yeah, the ones that you take something and they give you money back for it, right? Like the Pawn Stars, the show. Stop making that face. It's, Anyway.
Lucrative business, I hear.
Actually, it is. So anyway.
That's where I go when I'm trying to get a fix.
So most people have that belief.
Sure.
And they become a retail store by default. People just go in and, hey, give me $20 for this watch. And then they never show up, and then they get to sell the watch. And it's not as shady as it sounds. Trust me, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
It's too much TV. Huh?
Yeah, it is. But that was the first GM that said, Frank, I want to start a reading club, a book thing. And that's when I started reading these books by John C. Maxwell. I don't know if you heard the name. Anyway, he's a leadership guru, so-called. And then what's the other big name? Tony Robbins. So we started reading those books, and I got a lot out of those.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, there's something to this. And that started my whole growth, if there was such a thing.
Okay. So did you meet with at the when you were talking with this GM at the pawn shop? Did you have like regularly scheduled, or like what made the mentee mentorship relationship work?
Yes. So we met. We even met at a restaurant or a bar, and we had to do homework. We actually had to come up with our take on what we were reading. And we had a goal. It's like, hey, we got to read the book within a week or two, depending how big the book was.
Sure.
And so we always had to interpret what we were reading in our own words and say, how do you apply that to your daily life, and so on and so on. So it was awesome for me to go through that whole stage.
Well, and mentorship is such a wonderful tool, but it's funny because it has to happen organically.
Correct.
There's different organizations and associations and different groups that want to implement that kind of thing, and I feel like it is so wonderful. And the reason that I think I'm in the place that I am currently is because I've had wonderful mentors who saw me as so much better and higher and smarter and organized and so many things that I didn't see myself
higher?
as. Yeah, like not physically height-wise.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
more qualified, more professional, more
good use of the
things,
words,
more of the things that I never saw in myself, and that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother time and another podcast. But so having people that I think believe in you and see that and then vocalize that to you, it's such a powerful tool. But you can't force that. So it's like it has to naturally just kind of organically go there, and then both parties need to be interested in it. So I think it's fantastic. Like I said, I've had a couple mentors in my life, and one in the industry, which he's going to come on the podcast with you.
Okay.
Richard Wilkinson. Anyway, so
Richard, is that how we know him?
Dick. He likes to go by Dick. So he will be on the podcast at some point. Stay tuned.
Yes.
But I think having those people, it's just so critical. It's like having a supportive parent in your life that not only sees you as all the things that they want and hope for you, but that they can vocalize that and then give you the tools and the resources to help you get there, or say like, hey, I think that this would be wonderful for you, but I don't maybe have the skills, but this is like, go in this direction. Correct. Or here's somebody I know, or here's a book that I think would be helpful. So that's fantastic. So you're still in contact with this particular mentor?
We do. We don't talk about books anymore. I think we've grown, and I think all of us are now. We know what to look for and what to. Every once in a while, I was like, "Hey, have you read this one, or have you checked this one out?" I got something out of it. But I think now the older you get, and once you have done some work in yourself, you kind of know what material you're looking for.
Sure.
And it's easier to find those things once you have gone through quite the library of material. So yeah.
Sure. So are you still reading growth books professionally? Do you podcast? Obviously you like podcasts, but so like what is your resource or your preferred outlet for growing yourself and learning more about how to be better, do better, learn different techniques as technology changes, that kind of stuff? What are your outlets?
I'm in between. So I do the whole digital thing, YouTube, and then I get some sort of content out of that. I do read.
Okay.
I try to read.
Hard books?
Yeah, hard books. Even though as much as I am into digital content, getting the whole iPad and a digital book, there's something about the paper. I'm 45. I'm in that in-between age. So there's something about...
Are you a geriatric millennial? Or are you a Gen X?
I'm a little bit of everything. All right, that's how I consider myself. But every once in a while, I'm at the airport, and out of 10 flights, I end up buying a book.
Okay.
Yeah, and now
All
I
10
don't.
of them or one of them?
One of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out of 10.
Out of
sorry.
10, one. So I'm
Okay.
like at the 10% out of all the travels I do, I
Okay.
end up buying a book. Now, I don't read them all fully all the time, but I get that urge of, that looks interesting, and then
And are those all nonfiction? Are you still doing the like growth, or are you into
personal growth
no, just kind of all over?
personal growth, and also stories. Like, I don't do fiction, I don't do novels, I don't do anything else other than it might be a self what's the word I'm looking for,
Biography?
correct, biographies, yes.
Okay.
And personal growth, those are my go-to.
Okay. So you don't like the fake nonsense, the garbage, trash.
I can't connect. I tried, and then once I start, like within 2 pages, I'm like, I'm done. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I just got into reading. This isn't sound dumb, but this isn't
She
about
just
me.
learned. She just
but-
learned how to read.
Yeah,
That's
I just
what
learned how
she
to
just
read.
said,
So
yeah.
done phonics worked for me.
Or-
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I didn't. I've never been a big reader. I have attention problems, so reading and then I get distracted. So I just started. I started with ebooks, and I think with life and work and having just an overloaded plate, sometimes I'm like, I just want to escape to a fake story and just
really?
listen, so then I can listen to it, and then I turn it off, and I'm like, all right, back to my real life and other things. So it's almost like my brain just like takes a break and goes over here and listen to some fantasy about detectives or whatever it
Fabio,
might
you know, like, you know.
be. No, no, we're not going there.
Fabio on a horse with long hair, just
Absolutely not.
riding on the beach. No, all right, just hey,
No.
tomatoes, tomatoes. You
Detectives, solving crimes, those types of things.
know. Okay.
Anyway, so awesome. What else I have for you? I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to share with everybody about your journey here? What's next? You've got Torchtales, well, everything's going well. What do you foresee in the next 5-10 years with your journey here in the
Here you
gas
go
and
with
welding
here you go with the
industry?
big questions, right?
And end it with a bang.
All right,
It's my one and only opportunity for this. So.
right. 5-10 years, definitely, and let's touch on Torchtales. Out of a whim, it just started as I have a few friends that have different podcasts, and they're more into that audio content. But I think I've shared this before. I'm good at the face-to-face reacting, so that's why I wanted to kind of change this to a YouTube channel, and that's where I think I'm better at. Where if I was interviewing someone or having conversations with someone over the phone, over the computer, and it was just the voice and all that, I think I would miss a lot of little things. So that's why I wanted to do this.
Social cues.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm good at reacting at those, or at least I think I am. That's might be just my ego.
His head is inflating as we speak. You can watch.
Yeah,
It's
my
just
hat.
getting
It's a special hat. I got. There's no size for this. So that's one thing. And again, I don't know where it's gonna go, but because of friends like you and everybody else that I've asked, that they keep saying yes for whatever reason, and
We're all waiting for a paycheck. It's not coming. I'm not sure what's happening.
well, that would be the second paycheck. See, if there's one, the first one is going to be me. But yeah, so I love learning about people talking, and they keep saying yes. And now I've done, I don't know, 15, 16, and I've told you before, there's like 30, 35 lined up. And more people keep even now coming to me and say, hey, I would love to be part of it. I mean, how great is that, right?
I think it's because we had so much fun on the second episode. I
Yeah.
think that's what happened.
Now she's just bragging, but we did. I can't deny that we did. And then with UniWorld, the company's been at it for 75 years, since 49.
Okay.
And we have done pretty well in the last few years, especially. And as long as they have me and allow me to do my job the way I think I know how to, I'm gonna keep rocking and keep doing my thing. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
They allow me to just be free, and they don't micromanage what I do.
It's a powerful thing that I think goes unappreciated
Yeah.
in the world in general. But yeah,
Correct.
we're grown and we have a lot of skills that we bring to the table, and not being micromanaged. is
Yeah, if
something
someone
that-
hires you to be an adult to represent their company, they might as well let you be an adult and represent the company.
Yes, and don't be threatened by somebody else's skills that reports to you, that you hire them because they're great at what they do, and you got to let them flourish and do what they do. So
Correct.
I feel fortunate to be in a similar situation. So
Good,
that's good.
good. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's good.
And other than that, I just wanted to share with you guys that one of the reasons why we are doing this reverse contact booth, right? That's a term used in the industry, is that you might see Melissa a little bit more upfront with Torchtales. Who knows? We'll see. We'll do a survey and see what you guys think.
I'm going to get a paycheck, and then I'm going to get a shirt, and I'm going to be all set up. And you're going to be like...
first you need to learn how to work that.
Yeah, logistics, it's hard.
Yeah,
I'm older. I'm not as old as he is, but it's hard. Technology is difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody can replace Frank, so I am honored and thankful that I got this opportunity, and hope that, we can do some collabs later, and I can help you out on different areas that maybe you're not in. So yeah, I love the Torchtales.
She's one of my biggest fan. Yeah.
Me and his mom were besties.
I know. Yep.
Biggest fans. So yeah, I love this opportunity, and I love the podcast, and I think personally I get people reaching out to me, and I watched your episode and that's so great, and it gives people the opportunity to see you in person and then not feel so weird.
Correct. Once they see you after
I don't
that.
feel like I'm that person anyways, that I'm like, I'm Melissa, and everybody's scared to talk to me, but
well, I mean, I get it with me because I'm a big deal.
Right, I'm not.
I mean, I'm just a big deal. What can I say?
Yeah. One might call you the Black Joe Rogan.
Oh, I'll share that story on another episode, but there's something behind that comment. Yes.
Anyways, all right. Well, thank you for letting me do this. It was such an honor.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
You know how much I love you. Thank you.
Back at you.
And guys, there you go. If you guys wanted to know a little bit about me, now you have. Do whatever you want with it. Probably nothing. But thank you. We'll see you on the next episode somewhere else with somebody else. Thank you, guys.